The walls are closing in on Lil Durk, and this time the situation looks darker than ever. What began as whispers about a federal investigation tied to a hit on Quando Rondo has exploded into a full-blown RICO case that's shaking the entire hip-hop world. Federal prosecutors have reportedly connected Durk and several members of OTF, Only the Family, to a sprawling criminal conspiracy, one that allegedly stretches from Atlanta to Chicago and even into parts of the music industry itself. The new filings paint a grim picture, suggesting Durk wasn't just involved by association, but that he played a key role in organizing, funding, and directing street-level operations behind the scenes. What's even more shocking are claims that some of these operations were disguised as music investments, moving money under the radar through shows, features, and production deals. According to insiders close to the situation, the feds are alleging that Durk used coded lyrics and messages to communicate with individuals tied to violent crimes, including potential hits, intimidation tactics, and retaliations. Prosecutors reportedly believe they've uncovered a trail of encrypted phone records, suspicious cash transfers, and witness statements linking him to organized violence that spans multiple states. The centerpiece of the case still revolves around the Quando Rondo incident, which the feds claim was part of a larger pattern of revenge and control, not just a random street conflict. Sources say investigators are pushing to prove that Durk's musical empire was used as a shield for more sinister business, a claim his legal team has fiercely denied. But the investigation has taken a darker turn. In recent weeks, reports surfaced that Durk's own camp is splintering. Rumors of snitching, betrayal, and backdoor deals have created panic inside OTF. Anonymous sources say at least 2 members have agreed to cooperate with federal authorities, providing details about Durk's alleged involvement in directing certain moves tied to rival groups. Even worse, one unsealed document reportedly suggests there were conversations about a power struggle within O Block itself, the very area that helped build Durk's reputation and legacy. The feds claim Durk was trying to assert full dominance over the block, even if that meant cutting ties, or worse, with people he once called brothers. The psychological weight of the RICO case has already begun to show. Court insiders say Durk appeared calm during his most recent hearing, but prosecutors made it clear they want him held until 2026, citing risk of witness tampering and criminal influence. His lawyers argue that the charges are exaggerated, that he's being targeted because of his fame and lyrics. But the government's tone has shifted. This isn't just about music anymore. This is about control, money, and murder. And in the eyes of federal prosecutors, Durk isn't just an artist. He's a leader of an enterprise. To understand how this case spiraled out of control, you have to go back to the Quando Rondo connection. For years, the beef between Durk's circle and Quando's camp has been one of the most dangerous in modern rap history. It all traces back to the night King Von was killed in Atlanta, a moment that reshaped the landscape of both the streets and the industry. For Durk, Von's death was personal. The two weren't just label mates, they were family. Since then, fans and critics alike have speculated that much of Durk's music has carried coded messages about revenge, loyalty, and blood. The feds claim those weren't just lyrics. According to leaked court documents, agents have been monitoring Durk's activities since early 2021, tracking flights, money transfers, and phone communications between known OTF affiliates and alleged street operatives in multiple cities. One particular transfer, reportedly $120,000 wired through a shell company, has become a focal point of the investigation. Prosecutors allege that the payment was connected to an attempted hit in Georgia, carried out by individuals who had no direct music business ties but were seen in multiple Durk-related circles. If proven true, that would connect Durk's financial operations directly to organized violence, which is exactly what RICO laws were designed to target. RICO, or the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, is one of the most powerful tools in the federal arsenal. It allows prosecutors to hold leaders accountable for crimes committed by those under their influence, even if they didn't pull the trigger themselves. And that's what makes this case so dangerous for Durk. The feds don't need to prove he committed the acts personally. They only need to prove that he directed, encouraged, or financed the people who did. In a system where many of his closest affiliates are already facing charges or cooperating, the odds start stacking up fast. What's adding fuel to the fire is the alleged discovery of voice notes and private group messages that prosecutors claim show coordination between OTF members before and after certain incidents. Some of those communications reportedly reference the job and business deals, phrases that the feds are interpreting as coded references to violence. Durk's attorneys have argued that these are innocent references to the music industry, booking shows, handling promotions, or organizing releases, but prosecutors are convinced otherwise. The more they dig, the more they seem to believe that Durk's empire was a double operation, music on the surface, retaliation underneath. In recent weeks, new reports have also surfaced suggesting that the FBI is looking deeper into connections between OTF and former O Block members, some of whom have already been arrested or convicted in unrelated murder cases. The theory is that O Block was being used as both a hub and a testing ground, a place where orders were passed and loyalty was measured. For Durk, the implications are devastating. If prosecutors can establish a hierarchy linking him to O Block operations, they can classify OTF as a criminal enterprise, a label that carries decades-long sentencing potential. What's really unraveling this case from the inside are the informants. Word from court insiders and street sources suggests that multiple OTF affiliates have already flipped, choosing cooperation over silence. While their names haven't been made public, whispers online point toward lower-level members and former associates who were arrested on unrelated gun or drug charges. The deal: reduced sentences in exchange for testimony connecting Durk to the command chain of the alleged enterprise. This development has sent shockwaves through Chicago and Atlanta. OTF's once tight circle is reportedly crumbling, with factions forming over who can be trusted and who can't. On social media, some members have gone dark, while others have started sending cryptic messages talking about rats and fake loyalty. It's a familiar pattern in RICO cases, where the government's strongest weapon isn't the evidence itself, it's the betrayal that follows. The feds know that in the streets, loyalty is sacred. Once that cracks, the whole structure collapses. Adding to the chaos is a report that prosecutors are pushing for an anonymous jury, citing security concerns and the potential for witness intimidation. This means jurors' identities would be kept secret, even from the defense. That kind of request only happens in cases involving organized crime or major public threats. The fact that it's being discussed shows just how serious this case has become. One government filing even referenced concerns about public figures inciting online mobs, a likely nod to the influence of Durk's fan base and the reach of his music. The music itself is being weaponized too. Prosecutors have submitted multiple tracks as evidence, claiming the lyrics reflect real events and coded admissions. Songs like Ah Ha Ha and Shootout at My Crib have been analyzed line by government analysts, who allege they contain veiled confessions and taunts toward rivals. Legal experts, however, have pushed back, arguing that artistic expression shouldn't be treated as literal evidence of crime. This debate has ignited a major controversy about whether rap lyrics should be admissible in court, a debate that's now front and center in Durk's trial. But the most shocking rumor of all came from inside O Block itself. A source familiar with the investigation claims the feds believe Durk was planning to distance himself from O Block entirely, possibly out of fear that their activities would draw heat back to him. Some even allege he was quietly shifting money and influence away from the block, creating tension between his camp and longtime associates. Whether that's true or just another rumor, it's made the situation even more volatile and dangerous. By this point, the line between fame and indictment has completely blurred. What started as music beefs and diss tracks has now transformed into a high-stakes legal war. For Durk, every move matters. One wrong decision could determine whether he walks free or spends decades behind bars. Behind the scenes, the federal strategy is becoming clearer. Prosecutors are reportedly aiming to establish a timeline, linking Durk's rise in fame to an increase in organized activity within OTF and surrounding networks. They're using this timeline to argue that his success provided the funding and infrastructure for the alleged crimes to continue. It's a classic RICO tactic: build a narrative that connects fame to power and power to control. The larger the operation appears, the harder it becomes for the defense to claim coincidence. Insiders say the feds have assembled over 1,200 pages of discovery, including surveillance logs, intercepted communications, and financial audits spanning nearly 5 years. They've also issued subpoenas to multiple music industry entities, promoters, managers, and distribution companies to trace the movement of money tied to OTF's business accounts. The claim is that some music budgets were being used for street-level payments, an accusation Durk's legal team has called absurd and unprovable. Still, prosecutors are banking on the optics, showing jurors how street beefs tour earnings, and studio expenses all allegedly intertwined. Meanwhile, media coverage has turned the trial into a national spectacle. Every leak, every update trends instantly, and the more public it becomes, the harder it is for Durk to control the narrative. Supporters say this is a witch hunt, a government attack on another black artist using art as evidence. Critics, however, believe the feds wouldn't be moving this aggressively unless they had something real. Either way, the pressure is suffocating. Durk's upcoming album, once rumored to address the case, has reportedly been delayed indefinitely as his legal team prepares for the storm ahead. But perhaps the most chilling detail is the timeline of escalation between the feds and Durk's world. Sources suggest the government began collecting intelligence right after King Von's death, gradually building connections between multiple unsolved shootings, wire transfers, and communications. Over time, the pattern allegedly became too strong to ignore. Federal analysts even referenced Durk's own interviews, social media posts, and live streams as psychological indicators of influence and intent. The deeper they dig, the more this feels like a case built not just on evidence, but on perception, on how Durk's image as a street boss could be used against him in court. Still, not everyone is convinced this case will stick. Legal experts have pointed out that RICO charges often start broad but narrow down when the evidence gets tested. The government may have flashy headlines and sensational allegations, but proving leadership in a conspiracy is far more difficult. It requires airtight proof, not just association, but direct command. And while the feds may have informants, those witnesses come with baggage, criminal records, motives, and questionable credibility. If Durk's defense can expose inconsistencies in their testimonies, the entire narrative could collapse. As the trial approaches, one question looms larger than any other. Can Lil Durk survive this storm? Not just in the courtroom, but in his mind, his circle, and his career. The situation has become bigger than legal filings and federal motions. It's about legacy, power, and how an artist once seen as untouchable can suddenly find himself cornered by the very world he came from. Durk has built an empire brick by brick, turning trauma into triumph, lyrics into leadership. Yet now, every success story is being flipped and dissected under a federal microscope. What made him powerful in the culture, his influence, his loyalty, his reach, are the same qualities prosecutors are using to paint him as a threat to society. They don't see the rapper, they see a symbol of street structure dressed in designer clothes and corporate deals. Inside the hip-hop community, reactions are split. Some stand by Durk, arguing he's being punished for surviving the environment that made him. Others whisper that fame made him reckless, that his inability to fully detach from the streets is now costing him everything. It's a conversation that stretches far beyond Durk himself, one that exposes the ongoing war between artistic freedom and government perception. When prosecutors listen to a track like Ah Ha Ha, they don't hear music, they hear coded commands. When fans hear it, they hear pain, pride, and real storytelling from someone who lived through what others only rap about. This cultural divide is shaping not just Durk's trial, but the future of how hip-hop is judged in the justice system. If convicted, Durk could face up to 30 years in federal prison, a sentence that would silence one of rap's biggest voices at his commercial peak. But if he beats the case, he'll emerge as something even more powerful, an artist who stood toe-to-toe with the system and survived. That outcome, however, depends on more than music. It depends on his lawyers, his silence, and the loyalty of everyone around him. Federal cases like this don't crumble from lack of evidence. They collapse when people start talking. And right now, the streets are buzzing with names, theories, and stories that make the truth harder to find. The rumors alone have done nearly as much damage as the case itself, fueling paranoia, mistrust, and isolation inside OTF's ranks. Meanwhile, the feds aren't backing off. Reports say they're expanding their investigation, looking into older incidents linked to Durk's crew, trying to build a pattern that stretches back years. They're pulling from social media, old interviews, and even footage from live performances, constructing a digital profile of what they claim is gang leadership disguised as artistry. It's a dangerous precedent. If they win, it could open the door for prosecutors everywhere to use rap lyrics and imagery as evidence of conspiracy. That's why the industry is watching this case so closely, not just for Durk, but for every artist who blurs the line between reality and art. Still, those close to the situation say Durk hasn't lost his fight. He's reportedly been writing nonstop, crafting songs that reflect the pressure without crossing legal boundaries. Behind closed doors, his team is strategizing not just for court, but for a comeback, a plan to rebuild once the dust settles. Whatever happens, one truth remains. Lil Durk's story will define an era. From the streets of Chicago to the heights of Billboard, he turned pain into power. And now, that same story faces its ultimate test. Whether he walks free or falls, the impact will be felt across hip-hop forever. This case isn't just about one man. It's about how far the system will go to silence the street's most powerful voice. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into hip-hop's biggest scandals, courtroom battles, and culture-shifting moments, where truth and history always meet the mic.